Well, hello and good afternoon to everyone. Hello, I'm Leonardo McClarty. I'm president of the Howard County Chamber and like to welcome each of you to our Scale Up series. And so I'm going to pause for just a second while we allow our attendees to come in for just a moment. And it looks like we've got everyone here. And so I will get ready to get us started. And excuse me for the classical music you've got in the background here, but I'm off site, but we still want to continue. And we've got a great program scheduled, as I think we always do with our Scale Up series. And so for those of you that have actually never attended a Scale Up, this is one of our webinars that we do through our GovConnects program that is specifically geared towards those in government contracting that are, you've procured some prime contracts and really probably several, but ultimately are trying to continue to scale or grow your business and really take it to the next level, whether that's through larger contracting or through perhaps mergers and acquisitions to come later. And so all of our topics deal with growth. And so certainly you can't talk about growth and not talk about your executive team, talk about the people that you have with your company. And so again, that really speaks to the topic that we have today. And so excited to have with us David Tone, who's the CEO of BTS Software Solutions, as well as also Diana Burr, and I hope I'm saying that right, who's with Stephen Douglas, and then certainly moderated by Shirley Collier with Scale to Market. And so I'm going to actually get ready to maybe turn things over to Shirley, who will set the stage for how things are going to go today. The one thing I will say for you is that two things, actually. The first is if you have questions, we ask if you'll put them into the Q&A portal. We're going to go through the presentation first and then start following up the Q&A. It's going to be more conversational in approach, but again, just feel free to add your questions to the Q&A, which we'll be monitoring. The other thing is our GovConnects program is sponsored by a number of our annual partners. And so if we could show that on the next slide here, our annual partners are companies that support the Chamber's programming through the course of the year. And so they're led by Tower Federal Credit Union, as well as Uninet, and then also Aronson, and then the others that you see in Creatrix, Edwards Performance Solutions, HR Anew, Prescott HR, and Phoenix TS. And so with that, I'm going to turn things over to Shirley to get us started here.
Thank you, Leonardo, and welcome everyone. Before we get started, we will not have a PowerPoint presentation. As Leonardo said, this is going to be an interactive discussion. However, we will have a handout. It will be a checklist that we're going to be sending out to all of the attendees about today's topic. However, we respect your privacy. If you do not want your contact information to be shared with us, with the presenters, then please respond to this poll. So Taylor, if you can get that up there, I appreciate that. Our topic today is about how to find, hire, and retain an executive team to grow your GovCon business. This is probably the single most important factor and most challenging factor in scaling a business. To help me sort out these issues is Ilana Burr from Stephen Douglas and David Tone from BTS Software Solutions, who will represent two different perspectives on this topic. I would like for them to introduce themselves, beginning with Ilana.
Hi, everyone. My name's Ilana Burr with Stephen Douglas. I'm currently our Director of Client Service. I've been in recruiting for about 20 years now, as well as owned a recruiting firm in the past. I currently lead our IT and cybersecurity search team, which focuses on recruiting for cleared and non-cleared technical candidates within the DC, Baltimore areas, as well as nationally. Thank you.
Thank you, Ilana. David?
Good afternoon, David Tone, CEO of BTS Software Solutions. Shirley, thank you for moderating. Leonardo, thank you for running yet another great program. We appreciate the support that the Chamber provides for our government contracting community here. CEO of BTS Software Solutions, we service mostly the DoD and the Intel community, specifically with intelligence, analytic professional services, hardware, software engineering, and we have our own labs where we develop our own IP and generate products as well. My background, 24 years military veteran with the U.S. Army, retired out of Fort Meade in 2011, and enjoying this wild ride as a government contractor mostly since then, and excited to chat.
Excellent. Thank you, David. So our discussion today is about building an executive team. If you are an entrepreneur and you are smart enough and lucky enough to grow your business to a certain level, you will inevitably be faced with developing and empowering an executive team to grow your business to the next level. This is a challenge for most founders and CEOs, especially if you have a technical background or if you're just self-reliant and independent, which are the skills that make you want to start your business to begin with. So let's begin our discussion by talking about the decision-making process that the founder goes through. David, what was going through your head as you contemplated bringing into your business someone at the executive level?
Sure, it's a great question. I'll clarify, I'm not a founder of BTS, but when I came on board, we fundamentally restructured, so I'd say a proto-founder, if that works, and rebuilt the company off of to the BTS 2.0. From our perspective, executive level positions are by definition strategic in nature. And the demand you're placing on the leaders you're bringing in is that they can think and live months or years in the future while still keeping today running smoothly and on general course to get the company to tomorrow and ultimately to the day after tomorrow. And by day after tomorrow, I mean measured in years, not in weeks and months. So when we start by looking at what does the day after tomorrow look for the company, what are the realities, what do we want to be in 3 to 5 years as a company, and what do we need to achieve, and determine if we have enough leadership expertise and bandwidth within our current leadership team to do all of the planning, executing, oversight that'll take to get there. And if we don't, then the future reality demands an investment today in order to get to that future. Asking an already 110% task senior leader to do even more over an extended time frame is a recipe for failure for them and for the organization. You know, our running joke is there are 25 hours in a day, and every hour you sleep, you're stealing from the company. And while you can drive and coach and mentor and get in the trenches with your senior leadership and your management team at every level to surge on things, that's not a recipe for success for long-term sustained growth. So for us, big outcomes require a persistent and focused effort over time, which demands adding to the team and giving the new person the charter, the mandate, the authority, and the responsibility to get there, along with the right resources. But it starts with finding that right person and keeping yourself and the organization in the future tense on when you're hiring.
And that's easily said, but very difficult to do. So, David, when building a team in anticipation of this inflection point growth, as we've been calling it, where do you invest first? What are your primary considerations?
Sure. It kind of breaks down into 2 questions about the company and a question about yourself or your existing leadership team that you already have at 110% and beating them every time they take a nap. First is what makes you money today and what will be making you money in the future as a company. We're doing this to do service to the nation. You know, for us, we're a government contractor and we carry our veteran values all the way through to providing support to the mission that we think is critical. But at the end of the day, we're also trying to make some money for our employees and for our ownership team. So what's making us money today and what will make us money in the future? And then the flip side is what's saving us money today and what will save us money in the future. And those are the 2 things that drive just about every question associated with the investments of people and time. The third question is what percentage of my time or my current leadership's time is taken away from doing what they do best and providing their best value to the company and could be offloaded to someone who's that piece. People ask, what's your leadership philosophy? Well, here we lead by laziness. I find there's a lot of stuff I don't want to do, and I'm not really the best person at it. So find the right person who's good at it, who can carry the same vision that you're looking for, and can put themselves in the future sense, and give them the job. So you're great at this. I'm not. You do this. I'll give you guidance, and I'll get out of your way. And then you align your team in that way. So me looking at a spreadsheet or me doing capture operations, I can do it, but it's probably not the best use of my time when there are people who can do it better and will be better at it for the company.
Now, I've heard you say, hire slow, fire fast. Is that really enforceable? I mean, how does that play out in a small company?
Sure, it's hard, and we were talking offline. One of the challenges, our leadership team is mostly veterans, and in our leadership when we're in uniform, you really have a vested interest when you hire someone or when someone's in your unit or organization. You want to help coach, mentor, and train them to be the next best person they can be. So there's a tremendous amount of personal loyalty to the people you bring in and people you inherit in the organization. And that can kind of get in the way of the hire slow, fire fast ethos, which I think, comes out of the private sector. And candidly, we've had a bit of those friction points within BTS where we maybe have not fired as fast as we ought to have because we felt that loyalty and we can help grow somebody. But in the broader context, you have to be clear on the role and function you're trying to fill. Have you done the thinking, the hard thinking, what's this gap either today or a year from now or 5 years from now that we're trying to fill, so that we really understand the skills and the kind of person we're looking to hire. So in hiring slow, the first step is really identifying your requirement and thinking about it from every perspective that you can. The second piece is personality and culture fit are more important, I think, the smaller the organization is. When you get into a large corporation, then there are places to move. When I first got out of the military, I worked for a relatively small company. I was employee number 80 something. And I went through 7 interviews before I was offered the position. And when I was finally offered the position, I was at the lunch and it was like, hey, welcome to the team. I asked the CEO and founder, why 7 interviews? He says, well, we're a small company. Frankly, he said, we can't hire assholes because today you're doing this job, but tomorrow you may have to do another job because we're small and we're going to move talent to where we need it. And if you can't work well with our people, with everyone in the company, and you can't build teams across the board, then you're of no value to our you become an asset we can't move as the company needs you to move to the next most important thing. So culture and personality fit matters, particularly when you're super small. When you're super large, a big company, I think there are places you can hide people or people can hide where they're part of a cog in a machine. It doesn't work when you're really small. If the person you're hiring is going to have a division or an element of the company that we're anticipating to grow significantly, that person, that leader of that division, that department, that section of the company becomes the owner and purveyor of your company culture for that segment of our population. Are they suited for that? Not only do they have to run the business, but they have to extend our culture into a growth area. And so they're bringing in a whole bunch of new people, a whole bunch of new processes. It has to fit into the existing organization. And are they the right person from a business perspective, from a leadership perspective, from a talent selection perspective, that they can carry a fairly heavy dual burden? Do the work, but build the culture and extend it so that those people are your face to the customer and face to the world. And then the last piece is really establishing your firing criteria early. Is it performance-based? Is it fit and culture-based? Is it something else? And thinking through what's the impact of losing that person just as they're starting to gain momentum. If, fire fast, if you're 90 days in or, define fast, have you hit those criteria in a way where you can say, you're really not working out. We appreciate your time and effort. Thank you for your contribution and we wish you luck, but you're not working out here. You don't want to make those decisions and establish that criteria under duress. You really want to have done that thinking before you've had a person and a relationship that's in play.
Those are excellent points, David. I've heard some companies say regarding fit that they have a no jerks policy. You can't hire a jerk. So, Ilana.
That's a little bit more toxic than where I worked.
So Ilana, let's say that a CEO has taken David's advice and is now ready to start the search. What advice do you have on the best way to attract top talent?
Sure, absolutely. So when you start your recruiting process, everything that David just said is absolutely correct. You need to have a very clear vision for what you're looking for in this person. The goals that you want the person to meet, as well as personally with their individual position, as well as company goals to meet, and a clear understanding of your own company culture and values, so that you can hire someone that can not only do the job, but also be a leader and share your culture, values, and vision as the company grows. And this, as you were saying, is so important, especially as you're, a smaller company growing and bringing on the right leadership team for the future. You want to become an employer of choice and a place where people, seek out, where they want to work for you and they come to you to look for employment. And so some ways to attract talent beyond, of course, having a strong compensation plan and benefits plan, you need to have a strong social media presence, something that highlights not only the products and services that you provide, but also your company culture, and discuss in your social media your products and why they're the best and why you can do what you do, but also have a story of your why. Employees, when they're looking for companies to work with, really want to be a part of something bigger, where they can see how they themselves can reach their own goals, help the company reach their goals, and no matter what position they're in. This goes for executive level as well as entry level all the way up. They want to see the bigger picture and how they're helping the company, how they're helping your clients, and in the end, how they're helping the world, and where do they fit in, and kind of see the bigger picture and what they can do with the services or products that you offer. Some other things that you can have in place, to help attract the right people, is to have something like an employee referral program. If you have happy employees, they will refer other like-minded people to you. And they'll bring in the right people. And that's a great thing if you can offer, a small bonus or a fee every time, if somebody refers you somebody and you hire them. That keeps the employee happy. They feel like they're doing a great job, and they'll bring you like-minded people. Also, growing your employees and promoting from within is very important, so that when you hire someone, they have a clear picture of their career path and how they can grow as the company grows. If you're a small company looking to hire an executive, in that role as well, they need to see kind of the bigger picture and how this role is going to grow as the company grows. And that helps the individuals envision themselves with the company long-term and understand that there's a plan and a path to growth, not only for themselves and the company as well. Anytime you're interviewing someone, they're also doing research on your company. When you're, especially at the executive level, when you're interviewing someone for a position, they're also interviewing you as an employer and seeing if this is a place where they want to work and where they feel comfortable. So encouraging, current employees that, to give your company reviews on sites like Glassdoor. So future candidates, when they go and research you, can go and see, hey, there's these 20 other employees that work for this company. They're happy. They talk about the management, the styles, the culture. And it's really something that's important as executives are looking at your company and want to join the team. In addition to, the standard benefits as far as, medical insurance and all of that, even small perks can make a difference in employee morale, in retaining people and attracting good people. And they don't have to cost a lot of money. So simple things like employee team building activities, free snacks or free coffee in the office when we all, start reporting to the office again. As well as bigger perks and benefits such as, tuition reimbursement and things where people can continue their path to growth in their own career. But I think that the number one most important thing to attracting employees is to show your current employees that they're valued, be fair, be honest, and have great communication, and you're communicating your expectations. And that's really the core in having great people and attracting new great people, is to really hold true to those values and morals.
It's just like when you get married, you don't just marry that person, you marry their family. So you want to find out the family that you're marrying into when you take a job.
Yeah, absolutely.
So David, let's say that you have retained Ilana to help you build out your executive team. Your company is hitting an inflection point and you're surging from small to other than small, but the systems and processes that you have in place are not scaling sustainably. What kind of person do you tell Ilana that you are looking for to rebuild your organization while simultaneously undergoing all these dramatic changes?
Right. That's a great point, because there's a lot of change going on in the organization, and then you're introducing a new person at the same time. So that's yet another. And by the way, this is yours to fix. So there's a lot there to think. Welcome to the team. Get this all cleaned up. You have till tomorrow by 3.
Right.
So I think the first step is you want to hire domain experts that have operated at the post-growth level and know what right looks like, and how to skate to the puck, to steal from Wayne Gretzky. So what does right look like in general, what look like in, from their experience, and understand that vision from an organizational design perspective, and capacity from the architecture, and your systems and your people and the interaction across the different systems in your company. But then you have to make sure in the interview process, do they understand what right looks like in the context of your vision, not their vision, and the corporate culture. It may be different from what they've done in the past. In fact, it probably will be different than what they've done in the past. Now, the balance is, you don't want it to, our way or the highway. You want to bring in and give them a space to bring in what worked well from their experience in their past. That's what you're hiring them for. But if we hired someone from IBM, the IBM way may have some really smart things that we would want to, kind of incorporate into our processes. But a lot of things that IBM does just doesn't fit for a company my size and who we are as a people. Yeah. Our chief growth officer came out of one of the large systems integrators, and he brings a lot of process that he understands. And part of what we asked him to do is, hey, I want you to build a growth and capture team and build these processes for us. But then the next sentence was, but don't over-engineer it, because we don't need a Raytheon or a Lockheed Martin level kind of solution system when we're 100 people and I can throw a basketball and hit half of the team at any given time. So understanding what's right, what to bring with them, but don't bring everything in. We're not going to be Lockheed. We're not going to be IBM. Certainly not yet. And then the last piece is where you started. The strategic hire in any domain has to be a player coach. And they have to be able to do the job and build the organization to do the job at scale all at the same time. So that means they have to be multi-layer thinkers, multi-level thinkers. What do I have to do today so that the wheels don't come off the bus? But I'm also building the bus and building the road and everything else that we're going to at the same time, and understand what each of those components look like, and understand how actions and decisions today may or may not support that long-term plan. And if they don't, but you have to do it anyway, understand how you're going to make up the ground that you've lost. If they do, then that's even more better. And so working through those things. And that's a conversation that you have to have in the interview process about those things that you're looking for. I'm looking for you to come in, be a player coach, build a team, build a system that's bigger than just you, and get us to where we want to be in 5 years.
David, in addition to that technical and domain expertise, what personal characteristics do you seek?
I've found that humor, even if it's gallows humor, is the start of anything. It diffuses the irritants and frictions that undermine teamwork and exacerbate the challenges when things get tough. And it's the glue that builds good teams, and the relationships between them. If you can't laugh at and with yourself, then as things get harder and harder, then the only other option people have is frustration and anger. And that's corrosive to a team. So I look for someone who, it may not be my sense of humor, and if they're lucky, it is not my sense of humor, but they'll be, they'll bring humor and a sense of, we take the job seriously, we take the mission seriously, we don't take ourselves seriously, and we're going to try and have fun in what's an otherwise serious business.
Yeah.
We follow that with, strategic vision, things we've already talked about, clarity of thought, what's their emotional independence, and do they have an irrational faith in our ability to succeed?
Well, I think that you're particularly good at the humor part of it. And you're right, it does kind of diffuse the situation. What we all do for a living in government contracting, and God knows, in the middle of a pandemic, it's hard. It's very hard. And it's hard to stay motivated and positive every day. And humor helps. So let's say it's now time to interview. What are some of the best practices for interviewing and hiring virtually in today's new way of business? Ilana, why don't you take that?
Sure. Setting expectations and being clear about your interview process and the steps you're going to take in your interview process. As David mentioned earlier, some clients and some companies, you will interview 7 times. Have you meet with different groups of people individually, whatever the process may be. And I work with other companies that do 1 extended interview and make an offer. So it really depends. That's part of your company culture. It's part of, what makes you you and your processes. So just setting the expectations from the first meeting or the initial call and say, here's our interview process is this, because I think some people can get put off if they are not expecting to go through 7 interviews. And then it's like, how come I keep having to talk to people? But if you let them know from the beginning, this is our process. So then they have clear expectations. Treating virtual interviews the same as you would treat in-person interviews. Ask the same questions that you would ask during your formal interview process. That doesn't really have to change. I strongly recommend doing video interviews in lieu of phone interviews. First call can possibly be a phone interview to set up a video interview, but you can really get a much clearer picture of someone, how they interact, their personality, and really connect with them to see if they're the right match for your business over video, if an in-person interview or lunch and all that is not available to us as an option right now. Make sure, your technology is working before the interview. I tell this to my candidates as well. And of course, you can never be 100%. Things happen and that's fine. But if you're using Zoom or Microsoft Teams, WebEx, or the many technologies that, we've all been very used to using over the past couple of months, just make sure it works before your interview. Make sure that, you have it set up, the person has the correct link, so that you're as prepared as possible and can kind of jump right in and not have to talk about technical issues. And then after the interview process, though, one thing that's important too is to have the technology in place to hire and onboard virtually. So things, simple websites like DocuSign, there's many HR tools that will allow you to onboard virtually. But as you're hiring, if you're not able to meet in person, it's much easier when you have the correct tools in place to streamline that process and get somebody, up and running as quickly as you can after you make that decision.
So David, do you have any executive interviewing tips you'd like to share?
Sure. So I think the usual questions about your hardest job, your biggest challenge to overcome are sometimes illustrative of the person and their abilities and capacity. But certainly at the level that we're talking about for hiring, people have some good stock answers to those questions. And they may actually be real too, but they've thought through those. I like to understand how people think and how they set the priorities. It's best done, I think, over meals, relaxed as possible, probably some adult beverages, and with a couple of the person's future peers to have a conversation. Again, to this multiple interviews and do you fit, particularly as a small company. A C-suite senior executive isn't just a hire for a job. They're supposed to become part of your company's DNA. They'll help change your company's DNA with who and what they are. And that's a level of intimacy that interview questions don't normally get to. Second, we're all on a life journey. Statistically, we're all going to die between 79 and 81 years old if you live in America. People should have a clear idea of who they want to be when they get to the end of that journey, both personally and professionally. So given that finite time on Earth, understanding where BTS fits into their personal and professional life goals is critical. Are we going to be the last place they work on that journey? Probably not, hopefully not. So where do we fit in that path? Are we getting them closer to their personal and professional objectives? Do we know how far that is? And do we know when we've gotten them as far as they can and it's time for them to look for the next step? I think those are adult conversations to have with your senior leaders so that you have a good common understanding of what are we doing? How are we going to do it? How does this fit in? And when we're getting to the end of where it fits in your journey and you're going to start looking for the next phase in your life, we need to be aware of that and we need to be a partner in helping that. But also, from a leadership perspective, it helps us manage transition. If we know a year ahead that someone is, they said this is what they want to do and this is what they want to get out of working at BTS, and we're close to that, we'll say yay. And they want to go on to the next thing, whether it's retirement or another job. They want to work at a big, they want to go back in government, they want to go work in a service industry. Those are all important things to know so that we can help them get to where they want to be as a person. And we can help the company prepare for that transition in a collaborative way.
That's very insightful, David. I don't hear too often executives asking their executive team during the interview process, when do you want to retire? So I think that's very illuminating.
It's not even a retirement conversation. We ask this question of actually all of our employees. Our software developers, what are you trying to do professionally from your software and coding skill set? And where do you want to go? And how far can we push you? What missions do you want to work on? And personally, do you want to have a family? Do you have a family? Are they in college, out of college? Do you need to move somewhere? All of those things matter, and we're part of that journey. And so we may hire a senior executive who wants to ultimately work in a large company, and they're here to do good with us, do good with the mission, but they want to learn the skills so that they can upsell themselves to go work at IBM. That's fair. They get one life to live, and I want them to be happy and their family to be happy. And so if we understand that, then we can work towards those goals.
That's excellent. So let's talk about availability. What are you seeing in the market right now with high unemployment? Are there plenty of candidates?
If the question's to me, not for the positions we're looking for. When you start throwing in clearances in our space, it's just really tight. Anyone who's good has got a job.
Ilana, what are you seeing?
Yeah, exactly the same. Unemployment might be high right now, in some areas, in some fields, but for highly skilled candidates, executive level candidates, and especially cleared candidates, there's no unemployment. Not that there's none, but they're very hard to find. The market is tighter than ever. We find, when we've got good candidates, especially at certain levels of clearances and polygraphs, they have multiple job offers to choose from. There's many more positions open than there are candidates we work with every day. There are some opportunities, though, where certain companies, certain industries might be in transition, going through changes, due to COVID, and adjusting. And it brings some new opportunity to attract candidates to your company that may not have been available or may not have been on the market or looking for new opportunities several months ago before the pandemic started. So, there is some new opportunity, but in general, for executive, highly skilled positions, technical positions, and especially cleared positions, there's not an abundance of candidates on the market because of unemployment.
So let's explore this a little bit more about everyone working virtually. Has that changed your approach to finding and retaining senior executives? And this is for either of you.
So I'll jump in with just a couple of thoughts. I think Ilana got it right as far as the finding part and doing the virtual interviews. You have to do that, particularly. Interestingly, we were 75% remote workforce from a back office perspective before COVID hit. So the transition to 100% doing the Teams and the Zooms was just a small step for us. And so now that that's our core function, the geographic constraints on hiring into the senior leadership have evaporated. So that's been an interesting dynamic for us. In fact, I have an interview at 1 o'clock today with a senior recruiter who lives, thousands of miles away. We'd never even thought of that as a viable option. And now we're pretty excited about this person coming on board. So that's a different dynamic that geography doesn't matter anymore. On the flip side, though, to your retaining piece, I am really concerned, and I've asked this question of just about all my peers, as you bring in new people in this post-COVID 100% remote workforce environment, how are you enculturating the new hires? Because you don't get those day-to-day, minute-to-minute interactions. It's not the big decisions. It's not the foosball table. It's not the ping pong table. It's not the beer calls or the beer tap you have in the office that sets culture. It's watching the little decisions. Hey, someone needs an extra week of leave without pay because of a family issue, or hey, we're gonna go with the more expensive healthcare program because we know our workforce needs this versus that, or those kinds of little choices that really reveal who you are as a company, or the conversations about what you're doing from prioritization. Those happen in minute to minute. They don't happen routinely in the daily 9:30, everybody get on the Zoom and call. So I'm always interested if any of our audience or anyone else has thoughts on how they've enculturated new senior hires who have not had the benefit of all the in-person rooting and grounding. How are they bringing them into the little things that make the big things? Does that make sense?
Yes, and I think that people are grappling with that. Some companies are very creative, others really are frozen in indecision. They don't really know what to do. So I'd be very interested in hearing some of the creative ways that companies are doing that.
Sure. And I can jump in there too. I actually have many clients that are in this position where, now they are working completely virtually and they can hire people outside of their geographical area. If you can embrace that and bring people in that don't necessarily need to be in your office, that really opens up the candidate pool that you get to choose from and opens up how many people with those specific skills you're looking for. So there's more opportunity than ever. And some of the ways that my clients have been kind of incorporating those people, I have a couple of people that I have executive level people that I've placed over the past couple of months that have started positions, have never met anyone in person. It's all been over video. And some of the ways that they're kind of incorporating them into the team is really doing, things like lunches, or coffee over, even though it's over video, but having that executive or that new hire, meet with people one-on-one in an informal way to have those conversations that you would normally have, at the water cooler, the beer tap, or ping pong, or happy hours, and things that we're not able to really do right now. So setting up, one-on-one lunches. I have, some companies that will send a gift card to Uber Eats to somebody before lunch and say, order yourself lunch. We're going to sit down for an hour and have that informal conversation. So just kind of doing those small things to get people to still connect, even though they're not in the same physical space.
I think that's a great idea. I just heard one of my clients yesterday say that they had a trivia night, a virtual trivia night for all of their employees, and they pitted them against one another in teams, just as if they were in a bar, having fun and participating in that, but it was all virtual. I thought that was very creative. So Ilana, I want to explore this a little bit more regarding virtual recruiting. What additional skills and business processes are required for executives to manage remote teams? Are your clients asking you to find people with a different skill set now?
Yes, thank you. I would say good communication skills are more important than ever. Setting expectations is paramount when working virtually. So the skill set is similar, but really having that and somebody that can translate that and create those relationships via, video and not being in person is very important. So that personality piece of somebody that, is able to be warm and welcome and connect with their team is always important. And, some things that we're looking for are, it's great to have people and to kind of shift your expectations a little bit, and measure your employees' performance by their productivity and not necessarily by the actual hours they're working or punching a clock. If they're working virtually, unless they're in a certain position where, certain hours are absolutely required, and that's of course different. But if you have a position where somebody needs to be productive, they may have kids at home schooling. I know I do. So I'm working early in the morning and working in the evenings. And as long as their employee is being productive, does it really make a difference if they're working 9 to 5? The workday can look a little bit different, in those positions where it's able to. Another thing is just, investing in the technology, being able to provide your employees and teams with the technology needed to be successful. So of course, the video conferencing tools, software and whatever else they need that can be accessed remotely so they can be successful at home. And I think one of the biggest points as well is celebrating the little successes. So a lot of times, when you're meeting with your employees, it's about, what they need to improve and things like that. Really celebrating success. When someone's doing a great job, tell them, that goes for your executive team all the way on down. When working remotely, it's really important to keep people motivated, let them know that they're appreciated, and, show that. And the more they're appreciated, the more you let them know they're doing a good job, the more motivated they are to continue that. So I think that's really important, is not to forget to celebrate the successes of people that are doing a great job remotely.
That's a really good point. But let's flip this and look at it from the candidate's perspective. What are you seeing that candidates are most interested in right now? Is it job security? Is it benefits? Is it compensation? Or is it something else? David, you want to take that one?
Sure, I'm happy to take that. So for us, I think it's meaningful work with good compensation. Particularly in, as Alana said, when you're talking about clear people in the space that we're in, they have 3 offers a day, particularly for the higher skilled ones. And so is the compensation comparable, but the work has to be meaningful and the company has to have a passion and a vision that excites them. Our space is super competitive, so someone with a clearance and tech skills has their choice of jobs. So they'll gravitate to a place that excites as well as pays well. As Alana referenced earlier, do they know someone in the company who they're going to work with or around or near? The analogy we use from our veteran background is, when you're in the foxhole in a fight, you want the person in that foxhole to be as trustworthy and as good as you, if not better. Yeah. And so who do you hire? If I'm in the foxhole, I'm going to grab my buddy who I've known for years, who has the right skills, who I know I can work with, and I'm going to ask them to come work with me. And so if the mission is, if what they're doing is exciting and they know the company's taking care of them, the pay doesn't have to be the best pay. It has to be competitive, but it doesn't have to be the best pay, and the compensation package doesn't have to be the best if you can put that whole package together. Alana, I don't know if you're seeing the same thing.
Yeah, I was going to say very, very similar. Of course, competitive compensation packages and great benefits are a start. But I've found that candidates are interested in a company where the company culture and is important, morals, being excited about the work, and finding an employer that truly cares about their employees goes a long way. And I've had candidates that have not taken offers for the highest number. They've taken offers that are a competitive number, but for a company where they can truly believe that they're valued doing good work and are a part of a team. So yes, compensation is of course part of it, but the other things are so important as well, especially to retaining that person, because we have cleared people that we know just because they work for you, they're getting job offers and people recruiting them and things all the time in their ears, and they always have that next opportunity. So you want to retain the people that you have, and just having that good company culture and environment, and having them feel heard is very important to retaining them as well.
Ilana, do you think that the pandemic is changing people's priorities?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, as a candidate is looking for a position, it's important to have an employer that's flexible, that's able to embrace the change in a very positive way, and kind of explore other opportunities. And like I said, of course, there's many of us that have, kids at home and different things that we're dealing with. So having an employer that can value your work and your production, and be flexible as needed.
So are you finding that candidates are desiring to continue to work from home, or are they asking to come into the office now with proper mitigation in place? Because I'm hearing both sides of that.
I think it depends. I would say most candidates they're wanting to work from home whenever possible. We place many cleared candidates where that's not really an option. They have to be in the office, or there's hybrid plans where it's remote, some days in person, other days. But I think that working virtually in positions wherever possible is really going to become a norm and the standard, when it's possible. So I really see both sides of it. I think it also depends on just what they have going on personally in their lives and everything else. But I've worked with people that want to be in an office, and I work with people that want to work remotely as much as possible right now.
Yep. So, David, let's say that you've hired your executive. Now let's talk about, how do you keep them? How do you tee them up for success?
So the people, particularly when you're talking about senior executives, they have appropriately high opinion of themselves and what they bring to the table, and they have a pride in the work that they're doing, and that you've asked them to do. They're accepting the job because they're excited about the challenge. They're not excited about, hey, I got a great corner office or something like that. They want the challenge, and they want to demonstrate to themselves and everyone, I managed this challenge. I accomplished it. I did better than they expected. And I did all these things. And whether that sets them up for the next phase of their life, or it's just they live for the joy of doing what we've asked them to do in spades, that's great. As a leader, we owe the people that we hire and that work for us three things. We owe them a clear statement of what I've asked you to do, and prioritization. So I need you to do this. This is the most important thing. There's some, you can do this, don't do that, wills, shan'ts, shalls, but really frame out, this is what I'm asking you to do. And at a senior level, like a C-suite person, it's a broad strategic conversation. You don't have to go down to the, Monday at 8 a.m., I expect you to do this. But broadly, this is what I'm asking you to do. And you have a two-way conversation so they understand the guidance. Because a true professional will just get furious if they don't achieve what you've asked them to do because you didn't tell them the right thing and they're working off of bad guidance. The second thing you owe them is the resources to do what you've asked them to do. And the most precious, non-recoverable resource that we have is time. Yeah. I mean, I can get you more money, I can get you more people, I can get you more things, maybe harder or easier, but I can't get you more time. So if I've asked someone to do a job, I have to give them enough time to do it and all of the things they need to be successful. And that includes authority, responsibility, and control of the things I've asked them to do. And the third thing is I owe them an honest assessment on asking them to do something they're capable of doing. If you ask me to do brain surgery, I'm pretty sure I can cut into somebody's brain, maybe even sew it up at the end, but everything in the middle, probably not going to come out the way you want it to come out. So if I've asked someone to do something that they're just not trained to do, it's not their background, it's not their personality, whatever that is, I as a leader have failed them because I've set them up for failure. I've asked them to do what they can. So how do you retain people? Give them those things. No one wakes up in the morning and says, how do I screw up today? They all want to do well. We all want to do well. Yep. And if they don't, if they're failing, it's usually one of those three things. You didn't give them clear guidance. You didn't give them the things they need to get it done. Or you asked them to do something they're fundamentally not qualified to do. Not in a negative way. It's just they're not qualified to do that. And so if you do those three things and you get out of their way, back to the lead through laziness, then they're going to rock it. And they'll be happy because they're doing what you asked them to do. They're doing what they thought they were going to do. And it's a self-validating as a professional.
Those are excellent guidelines. Ilana, what are your thoughts?
You're muted.
Sorry. So on the company side, when you're talking about retaining people, as we've talked about several times today, great company culture goes a long way. Honesty, integrity, treating your employees well should be a top priority and has direct effect on your retention rates. As we mentioned as well, robust benefits plan, strong compensation, of course, and investing in training and education to help your employees grow, at all levels. So it's important to give them the tools that they need to be successful. And if you have somebody that wants to attend a seminar or get, the next stage in their education, helping them towards those goals and showing them that you care about them as a person and helping them reach their goals is excellent for retention. And working with each individual on your team and for long-term planning and goals, helping them meet those goals and growing. And like David said as well, knowing your team and knowing when they get to that point where you're not able to help them reach that next step in their career, being able to move on as well. Embracing corporate social responsibility, participating in things like charity events, matching charity contributions, doing community outreach events really helps your employees also feel engaged and that you're an employer that cares about them and their world and their concerns, and you're socially responsible in doing those things. And that's something that will help people stay as well. Communication, of course, and being honest with your employees, being clear, as we have said, on setting goals and talking with them about areas that they can improve, and just facilitating communication between your employees, managers, executive team, because that's really one of the most basic things that if that's broken down, it's going to have an effect on your retention as well. And hire good people. So, that's important through the interview process. Sometimes you find a person that looks great on paper. They have all the skills you're looking for. They've got the best of everything, but they don't match your company culture and values. Don't hire that person. Go with your gut feeling. You can train somebody for certain skills, but being able to change someone's values or how they interact with a team is much harder to change. So hire good people, hire people that fit in, and continue to build that. And you can train on skills, but you can't really change somebody's, core personality and values.
Yeah, their value system. Absolutely. Those are really good points. David, I want to come back to you as the CEO. You've touched on this a little bit, but I want to explore it a little more. How do you personally manage the scale up of your company to the point where you, as the founder, don't have to touch and do everything?
There you go, unmuted. It's a great question. And particularly when you're transitioning from a hero model where you get more done by just doing more, to where there's too much to do, and if any one thing you're doing, there's 10 other things you're not. So the company will fail if you are trying to touch everything. So I referenced it earlier, leading through laziness. Find out where I provide the best value, and then hire people to do everything else. And I'm finding as the company gets bigger, there's less and less I do, and more other people do, and that's a success.
Yeah.
Being emotionally ready to divorce yourself from process. If you hire and lead your people to build processes that achieve the outcomes you want, measure on the outcomes, coach on the process to ensure it fits in your culture. But they don't have to do it the way I would do it. They just have to do it in a way that's successful. It's extensible, it's scalable, and it's in concert with how we want to run the company and treat our people and represent ourselves to our community. And then I'm really big on loose hands on the handlebars. So mountain biked for many years. And when the trail is really rocky and rough, if you have a death grip on the handlebar, you know, it inevitably leads to when the wheel grabs a rock, it'll twist out of your hand. You'll end up yard sailing, and wrecking and being just all the way down the hill with parts and pieces everywhere, causing a catastrophic crash. But if you keep a firm but loose hand on the handlebars and allow them to jiggle as the bike reacts to the rock, the pothole, the tree, things you can see, things you may have missed because you're moving too fast, then it'll have the flexibility to react to the realities of life without it ripping out of your hands and losing control of the organization. I think it's a similar approach from leadership.
Yeah, I love it, David. I love that analogy because you're heading in the right direction, so you're steering in the right direction, but you're allowing the organization to bob and weave as necessary to achieve its goals.
Right.
That's great. So, Ilana, do you have any final thoughts or advice?
I think we've chatted about a lot that is really great information and should hopefully be helpful to everyone. The success of your business is really based on the quality of people you hire and your ability to retain and cultivate those employees to drive your business in the direction that you want to go and make your vision happen. So I hope you're able to really use some of the things that we've chatted about to build and retain your workforce and drive your business to long-term success. Excellent.
Thank you, Ilana. David, any final thoughts from you?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to share, some lessons learned. Experience is another word for scar tissue. And so thinking through, learn from others' mistakes and make your own new and interesting mistakes. So this has been a great opportunity to share, and I look forward to questions or people saying that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Well, thank you both for sharing your perspective and your insights. We would like to now open up the floor for questions. And let's see here. Let me go here. So we have a couple of questions. The first one is, at what size do small businesses typically expand their executive team beyond the founders? So David, what are your observations?
I'm not sure I have enough data sets enough of a data set to give it, a firm answer in it. I would say from the perspective I have, it's usually when you get between 30 and 50 people is the core founders and some, it's too much for them to do.
Yeah.
So somewhere in there, and that's when the processes have to really start to mature to be sustainable without someone touching that, a founder touching them all the way through.
I have found that to be the case also, about 30. And it really depends upon the skill sets of the founders and how many founders there are. If they're primarily technical in nature, I find that they will bring in business executives a little bit when they're a little bit smaller than that. Mm-hmm. Ilana, what have been your observations?
I don't really have any specific numbers, but I find it's time to expand your executive team when I'm talking to companies and potential clients that are too busy to bring in executives because they're too busy doing work.
Yes.
That's the key when you need to bring in people now, because if you continue to be in the weeds and do this work, you're not growing your company, you're just spinning your wheels. And so that's the point where I hear I need to hire someone, but I'm too busy.
Yes, I hear that quite often as well. So the next question is, which executive slot should I consider filling first?
Need to know a little bit more about the asker, but if you're the founder and you're the only C-suite person in there, then I think much to what Ilana just said, your COO or the equivalent, someone who can handle the day-to-days so that you can think strategically. As a CEO and founder, you're setting vision, you're the chief strategic BD person. If you're raising money, you're the chief fundraising person, you're the face of the company. Yeah. And so you can't, what's the old bumper sticker? If you're working in the company, you're not working on the company, or the business. And so I think someone that you can hand off the day-to-day so that you can do what you're good at. Or if you're really good at the day-to-day, you need to hire someone to be the visionary person so that you can do what you're good at and let them do theirs.
Yes, I would agree. Ilana, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I was going to say exactly the same. Whatever you are not strong in, that's the position you need to hire for. If you're started this company because you're a great software developer, you're great at coming up with technology, then you need to bring in somebody that can do the operations and run the company, and just the opposite. So whatever your skill set is, hire someone that complements that.
Yes, I would agree with that. And the last question is, how can I best attract and retain more diversity in my executive team?
That's a great question. I mean, it's something that we're working hard on here. And part of what I'm working on, I'm also the chair of the tech board of the Maryland Tech Council. We've just started an inclusivity initiative to try and, marry up with some of the other initiatives that are going on in the state to bring better inclusivity in the technology sector, from the C-suite down through entry-level employees. You can't just hire people who look and sound like you. And if your outreach to find candidates is just bringing people who look and sound like you, you have to change your strategy. You have to go hunting for them.
Yeah, because you're going to have blind spots.
Right, and the studies show your company's better the more diverse you are. It's not just a feel good. It's not just a PC conversation. If you really want to grow your company, you want diversity in your leadership. Yeah,
it's good business to do that. Yeah. Ilana, any final thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think a couple of ways you can do that too is, using your social media outreach to reach different populations and have a message and a vision that many people can relate to. So building content in your social media, your website that's relative and applicable to different audiences. Making diversity and priority from the top down as you hire people, put those programs, diversity and inclusion programs, at the forefront and make sure that you're really following those, and also building a database of candidates and diverse candidates within your field, that even if they're not an executive level right now, connect with them, stay connected on your social media, your LinkedIn and things like that. So, as those candidates grow, then, possibly there'll be a fit within your company in the future, but, to attract, kind of just put your message out there and attract as many people as you can from different backgrounds.
That's great. That's good advice. Well, Ilana and David, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today. And thank you to the rest of you for attending. The next Scale Up presentation is going to be on November 12th. It's the Road to Recovery 2021. It's going to be at noon. So do go to the Chamber website, event page, and sign up. We'd love to see you there. And now I'd like to pass control back over to the Chamber.
Thank you, Shirley, and again to David and Elena. I mean, this was just a great conversation. A lot of things that I know gave me a reason, something to continue to ponder on and think about, even if it's not even beyond an executive team, but just as you ultimately look at just hiring in and of itself. So again, a lot of just great, I think, feedback and again, things to think about. So again, just a couple of things that I'll touch on, and certainly Shirley mentioned it. The first being was the upcoming Scale Up, but also before the next Scale Up, we have next Thursday on November 5th, we're going to have Maryland's Chief Procurement Officer as the featured speaker for our Gulf Connects Biz Breakfast. And so for those of you that are looking to do business with the state of Maryland, e-marketplace concerns, other questions around just all of the changes that are taking place with the state as it relates to procurement and so forth, you've got the top guy that will be with us next week on the 5th. And so certainly encourage you to join us there. And then you also see the details on the, excuse me, with the following week on the Scale Up webinar. And so with that, I want to continue to thank everyone. I also want to thank our annual partners as well, as I referenced earlier, who are led by Tower Federal Credit Union, as well as Uninet, and certainly the others in Aronson and Creatrix, Edwards, HR New, Prescott HR in Phoenix. But again, thank you all for coming out. And I would certainly say if you're attending this and you're not a member of the Chamber, we'd love to have you join us. feel free to reach out to me or anyone that participated on this program to ask about next steps. And so with that, we'll see you soon. Thank you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye.